Hello, this is Seidemann from 1349, amongst other stuff. You are listening to the Thomas Eriksen podcast. Stay tuned.
Oh man, welcome back, people. It's been a long while. Last episode, I think I almost forgot when it was. I think it was in July. And that was the episode with my good friend Seidemann of 1349. I'm so sorry that I've been gone for so long, but I've been busy. But first of all, I have to introduce myself because I'm all out of shape here. My name is Thomas Eriksen, and this is my podcast. Welcome to it. I am the creative force behind the Norwegian black metal band Mork. And for those of you who do not know what or who Mork is and are, it's a black metal band, as I said. I got several releases out worldwide now, actually through Peaceville Records, which is starting to look like a career that I'm proud of. And I thank all of you for following the project and the band, and buying the records and going to the concerts and listening to this podcast. The podcast I started doing the same weekend that COVID was a fact. The same weekend Norway went into shutdown and lockdown when the virus spread. So I started with the podcast because I figured all shows and tours and stuff are probably cancelled and postponed. So why not just start doing a podcast, which I have been dreaming about doing for quite a while since I'm a fan of podcasts. So here we are. Well, I've been busy for a while now. I guess there's no secret now. Mork is a band and I'm a musician. I've been working on and with my upcoming album, and it's starting to shape up really nicely, and I can actually see the finish line in front of me. So hopefully you're in for a treat there. But something else has come along too, which is a bit more of a secret. I don't know how much I can say, actually. I'm sorry, there's a bunch of sounds going on in the background now. It's my brand new cat, which I got into my home actually after the last podcast episode. It's the cat, the male cat Lucifer. He turned 4 months old this week, actually, and he's full of energy. And today he's been alone for many hours, so now he's like a turboprop running around the place here. So sorry about that. He actually makes a few cameos during the interview in this podcast episode too, but it's out of my control. However, this summer I went on a long and nice trip of Norway, and at the end of the trip I actually went to a quite special place. And let's say it like this. A few weeks later, I returned to this special place to have a very special photo shoot. And it was supposed to be only about the pictures, but it kind of sparked something more. And I'm not going to say anything else about it. Hopefully, I will be able to announce it soon enough. All right? Mork has actually played yet another show as well. We played Halden, our hometown, yet again, actually. We I came up with a concept that I called Byen brenner igjen, which translates to the city burns yet again. Because hundreds of years ago, the city of Halden was on total fire. And I thought this was a cool little thing to just bring back, in form of a black metal show. We did a concert down here at the old prison yard, I would think, courtyard. Mork, our friends in Svart Lotus, and our friends in Endesma. We made a nice black evening down there, and thank you for all the people who attended. I think it was about 100 people strong, and I think most people followed the restrictions regarding the pandemic and safe distancing and stuff. It was a success. And we actually received an email recently from Haugesund, Flytten, and the tiny festival Heavy Nights / Black Nights, which is like one night that's more heavy metal, and the second night is more extreme and black metal. A couple of bands over there had to drop off the bill, and we were kindly asked to step in, and since we didn't have anything else happening, we said yes. So September 26th, we will appear on stage in Haugesund at Flytten yet again. Flytten has been in Mork's touring schedule a few times before, and we have enjoyed each and every time over there. So looking forward to that. And I would like to, before I'm starting to talk about this week's episode and special guest, I want to urge people to visit the official Mork web shop. We sell vinyls, CDs, patches, stickers, t-shirts. If you would kindly pick up something, I can provide a signature if wanted, and I do appreciate the support. There's not much shows going on, so and we need help to spread our plague anyways. So thanks so much. This week's special guest is a guy I actually met. Let's see, is it about 5 years ago now, when I went to Sweden to play at a festival called Mörkaste Småland. That's actually the first and only time I stepped in as a session bass player, actually, for our friends in the Norwegian black metal band Ragnarok. They needed a step-in bass player for that show, and I stepped in. And during that night or weekend, I got to see Dødheimsgard perform live, and also got to meet and get to know the guys. But first and foremost, the creative force within the band, Mr. Yusaf Parvez, mostly known as Vicotnik. I think we hit it off quite well, and we have been in contact ever since. And for a long while now, we've been talking about doing a podcast episode together, and now was the time. Yusaf came to Halden the other day, and I picked him up, and we went to the podcast studio, had a few drinks, and had a really nice and long chat that you will enjoy. And he also showed me the new masters for the new Dold, Vorde and Navn album, and I can tell you it sounded great. So well played, fellers. We talked about getting together once again in a short while now, maybe in Oslo, and he promised me to show me roughs for the new Dødheimsgard album as well, so we shall see. Anywho, please sit back, relax or stand up and run or drink or eat or do whatever you do while listening to these things. And enjoy my chat with Yusaf Parvez, aka Vicotnik, of bands like Dødheimsgard, Dold, Vorde, Navn, Manes, and Ved Buens Ende. Enjoy! Ja. Du snakker ikke så veldig høyt og bråkete, du.
Når jeg blir agitert, og det kan jeg jo veldig fort lett bli da, hvis man kommer inn på noe. Men nå føler jeg at jeg er litt innesperret også, i og med at jeg kan liksom ikke...
Ja, det blir bra det her, altså. All right, I am back. We are back, actually. It's been way too long, but I will try to, I don't know, do a better job from now on. I'm sitting here with the extremely talented man. His name is Yusaf Parvez, right?
Yes.
And aka Vicotnik.
Yeah, I guess I had many names over the years. You know, Vicotnik, Mr. Fantastic, the Viper, relating to different products, you know.
Wow.
So I kind of like to switch it around a bit, you know. You get easily bored as an artist, I guess, you know.
That's true.
Yeah.
Does it work at home too with the girlfriend?
Yeah, it makes her happy. So she has a new boyfriend every other week.
There you go. Oh man, welcome to Halden.
Thank you. I've never been here, which is strange because I'm from the same part, you know, or at least I had so many years in the same part of Norway.
And we are both from what used to be called Østfold.
Yes, and we want it to still be called Østfold.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We are from Østfold.
That's right. Yeah, you're from Askim.
Yeah, well, like I told you, I'm not really from there, but I lived there from 10 to 16, I guess. And then, you know, my family came from Oslo. So I went back there at 16. But
okay.
I had my adolescence there. So I usually tell people that, yeah, I'm from there because it's so important years, you know, when you're 10, you have, you know, your first taste of freedom.
That's the formative years.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you start listening to the music that maybe sticks for you for the rest of your life. And, and you drink for the first time and you get drunk and you kiss the ladies for the first time in between those years. Maybe you even get laid in between those years for the first time. So, of course, those those years are very important.
Of course.
Yes.
But man, let's. I'm curious. You lived in Oslo up to that point?
Yeah, actually, I lived in Stockholm. I guess it's a bit of a complicated affair. But I was born in Oslo. Then I moved with my father to Stockholm, and then when I was 5, we moved to Dehradun, which is close to New Delhi in India.
Oh, really?
And then we moved back to Stockholm, and then I moved to Askim.
Oh, man.
And from there, back to Oslo. And other than a small stint for 6 months in Spain, or 5 months in Spain, I've been living in Oslo ever since, yeah.
But can you remember anything of the childhood there?
Yeah, I guess it's so different from what you used to, so those memories really stick out, you know.
May I ask how come you jumped around like that?
My father is from India. That's
the name and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a North Indian name. I even think, you know, there's a link between North Indian and Persians. So Parvez is not only an Indian name, it's also a Persian word for fly. Not the insect, but to fly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess my heritage is partly from there and partly from the north.
Cool. I always wondered, because you don't have a name from Askim.
Definitely not. I was the only Yusaf Parvez in Askim, believe me.
Really?
Yeah. And they let me know.
Yeah, I would figure. Yeah. But you have it has passed over that, I guess.
Yeah, you know, at some point you learn to fight back. So I guess also if you're a captive, or, you know, if you get bullied, that's sometimes a state of mind, you know. And that's the state of mind some people wants to put you in, their control.
Yes.
So it's a bit up to you how you handle it, you know. Of course, not everybody has those tools or the means to do it. And obviously that's not their fault. But for me, I just learned to fight back, you know, because I got doubled up at some point. When I was 14, I was not only the half Indian bastard, but I was also the black metal guy, you know, with the long hair and the spikes and the you know, and
Double the pain.
double the pain, and especially when the churches started burning and stuff like that, you know, pretty ostracized. But you know, you can love it.
Yeah.
So that's a way how to look into it. You know, you can love it. You can love the situation you're in because
To be an outsider.
Yeah, it speaks truth to you.
Yeah. I love being an outsider. I'm the only church burner in Halden, you know.
You burned a church, like a small miniature one?
You see the candle over there?
Yeah, it was a church candle?
Yes.
I don't think the police will be coming at your door anytime.
No. I used to say that the guys, I would say you guys in the early 90s did all of that stuff, so I don't have to.
Yeah, I guess now it's not really important either, you know, because now it will just be a replica of something that happened naturally in the 90s. And that's really, you know, culturally, that's just silly, you know. That's just rewinding a tape and playing it on play for no other purpose than that it has been done before.
It's a bit sellout.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a sellout, but it's not culturally honest. Whereas when you know, the time I'm from in the black metal era, it was something that was kind of spontaneous in a way and sort of a cultural revolt, you know. Of course, we put very immature ties to it, but it wasn't really about that. It was about the opposition. And growing up in the, you know, 70s, 80s, and the 90s, it was a lot tougher in the sense that the country was a lot more conservative, you know.
Yeah.
And I always felt like our you know, all our revolt back then kind of also made a difference in the whole, you know. When you listen to this kind of stuff in the 90s and you had the long hair and the spikes and people spat at you, you know, and you could be attacked for no reason.
Yeah.
So we attacked back, you know, and that's why we burned the churches, because that's where the mentality came from, the attack mentality towards individuals that are different. It still happens, you know. The church still ostracizes homosexuals and people are, you know, just trying to live their fucking lives, you know. So, yeah.
Just be the outsider and not be, you know, spat at.
Yeah. And be proud of it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Let's go back to your childhood and how you got into music. How was your first musical touches?
I guess I owe that to my parents. Luckily, I had parents that listened to music and very actively. In, you know, every drive, there was music in the car. When we sat at home, you know, it wasn't always the TV. You know, TV was shit back then anyway, you know. So a lot of parents back in the day, they used to put on the records and stuff like that. So you really had that connection from the childhood, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that you had to figure out for yourself. So both my mother and my father had vinyls, you know, and they used a vinyl player on a daily basis.
Oh.
So they played things like Michael Jackson, Pink Floyd, Dire Straits, stuff I like to this day, you know. So, and obviously also a lot of things I don't like to this day. But I guess without knowing it, they kind of taught me the closeness to music, how to have a bit deeper relationship to music that is evident today, you know, where it's more like a consumption thing, you know.
Yeah.
You buy a single from somebody you don't really know. You think she has cool clothes and you buy the single and you listen for it to 3 months and you throw it out the window and you buy a new single. You know, it wasn't like that back then. And if I talk to my mother to this day and ask her what she likes, she will say exactly the same artist that she listened to, you know, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I guess I picked up on that loyalty, you know. And I think we all have, in a way, all we people who listen to metal, you know. If you go to a metal concert, you will see maybe 3 generations of people, you know, the father, the son, and the grandson, you know, all being at the show, you know. That doesn't happen on a Keisha concert or a Eminem concert or, you know, it doesn't.
Oh.
So it's quite unique. And I think It's culture, of course, but it's also a bit of, in my case at least, it was a bit of nurture as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the first hard rock experience then?
I guess my first hard rock experience was at 5 years old because I had an older cousin. And how I remember it, a lot of people would probably say that's bullshit, but I remember back in like 82 or something like that, you could like two bands in Norway. You either were a ABBA fan or you were a Kiss fan. And I was a Kiss fan because of my older cousin, And even in the you could buy candy at the store. And in the late 70s, early 80s, when you bought something called Stjerneposen in the store here in Norway, you would get Kiss cards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the candy bag, they will give you Kiss cards. So that's how big they were,
Wow. But Kiss kind of, as I understand it, I'm born in 84, so I'm a bit later on,
Yeah.
But as I understand it, when Kiss were on their international downfall, they were on the high in Norway, around Unmasked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah, I guess that wasn't necessarily true to us because they were so big here. And Norway has a lot of those artists that's really big in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Peter Cetera still comes back here. Nobody listens to Peter Cetera except Scandinavians. Sorry, Peter. But, so, but I kind of enjoy that, when it comes to Kiss as well, that you have a population that just following the beat of their own drum, And I've been a lot to Greece, for example. And Greeks are that way still, to this day. They don't care, They don't care if Satyricon or Dimmu Borgir is the biggest band, like mostly in other countries, you can see the popularity in the bands in relation to how many people comes on the concerts,
Yeah.
But in Athens, when we go there, 1,000 people comes, There's nowhere else, I can travel and play one show in one city and collective 1,000 people will come. So Greeks, they don't care, They don't care if this band is popular or that band is popular. They just care about what Greeks care about. And I kind of love that.
That's cool.
So it's maybe the same way with Kiss here in Norway that, maybe they were on the international downfall, but we didn't care. It was the best thing ever here in Norway. So that's how I got into Kiss, So with the help from my older cousin, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but were you kind of triggered to do that for yourself then, like guitar-wise and?
No, I guess the spectacle of it was a bigger impact than kind of the instrumentation.
Yeah.
Because when you're 5 years old, like I was, you don't really understand the dedication and the hard work that goes into it, and that took years before I understood that, And if you take the analogy of playing sports when you're young, you play football, you play handball, you maybe play something else, and you do this and that. Because you don't have the dedication to just stay with one thing and being good at it, because you don't have that concept yet.
That at 5, of course.
No, and even when I was 12, I didn't. I did sports and I got bored, and I did some other sports and I got bored. So I guess for me, personally, it was the extreme metal because it was so close in proximity. It wasn't an American, Like if you think about actors, it wasn't a big actor. Like Gene Simmons to me was more like a big actor than a musician or somebody that did a lot of work, So he was something unattainable.
Yeah.
And when I listened to Maiden, when I maybe was 10 years old, I went on to Maiden. It was still like that. That was my mindset. No, that was something that the talented people, like the extraordinary people, did. So
unreachable.
So it had nothing to do with me. So it's with the Swedish death metal scene and the Norwegian black metal scene, you're kind of pushing that proximity very close to yourself. But it's because it's not happening overseas. This is happening just next door, you know? Some guy you knew actually plays in a big band. Like my neighbor was the bass player, my neighbor in Stockholm. I lived a lot of places, as you know by now. But my neighbor in Stockholm was Guillaume. He played on the 2 first records of Catatonia, you know. So when I was 14 years and he had already achieved that, you know, the walls are moving in, you know.
Yeah.
And I think also with the conceptuality of black metal, for example, it also gave you another motivation to do this outside just being an instrumental, somebody that plays an instrument, you know?
Yeah.
It gave you a motivation, like an attitude, a lifestyle, a way to dress. And, you know, when you're young, your brain is wired in a different way. It's also scientifically proven that in your adolescence, like 14 to 17, you're actually a bit insane, or you are very impressionable to insanity. Yeah. So, of course, you have all these factors coming together, and you're stuck in the middle of it. And basically, that's when I understood that, hey, man, I can do this, you know. This is something I can do. I never thought that with Kiss or Iron Maiden or even Metallica, you know. It had to go further into the extreme world, and it had to come closer in proximity.
What age was that at?
I had my first band in 1990, and that's a funny story, actually.
You're born in 77, is that it?
So I was 13 years old. So I guess maybe I've been toying around with the idea for maybe half a year by then. So maybe when I was 12 and a half, and then it materialized when I was 13, you know. And I remember we had these, you know, bands before as well, where we played, you know, like a tennis racket, and all that stuff. But that wasn't really serious. That was just us impersonating our idols, you know. I loved the Europe's album, The Final Countdown. It came out in 1987, I think. You know?
Something like that, yeah.
And, you know, I always wanted to impersonate that album to my classmates and stuff like that. They get really tired of me doing those songs, you know. So, but it wasn't really that I understood that this was something I wanted to do, because I thought I was just impersonating somebody else, you know.
Yeah.
Going back to my first band, you know, when I was 13, it's a funny story, actually, because we called it the Lords of Satan.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's not out of bravery. It's actually out of cowardice, you know, because we were thinking, how can we be like, take this evil persona without really risking anything? And we came up with the Lords of Satan. Because if somebody asks, hey, are you Satanist? We could say, no, we're the Lords of Satan. So we're above Satan. You know?
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I was so pissed off because one of my bandmates back then, he said, I got us a rehearsal room. And I said, yeah, great, let's go rehearse. And a couple of days later, he took me to the rehearsal room, and it was a church.
Yeah.
And I was so annoyed, you know. And he said, I even got us lessons, man. And the priest came down to show us. And that was just, you know, that was just the opposite of what I wanted to do.
But it's perfect blasphemy to do it in there.
Yeah, but I guess I felt belittled, you know.
But what triggered such a band name? What was that? Was that Slayer, or where did that come from?
I guess it came from, you know, we had...
Were you into like Bathory and Hellhammer and such?
It came a bit later. I guess that was in the process of getting into those bands, you know. I don't remember if Left Hand Path was released by Entombed by that time, and you also had a lot of demos. You had some even demos from here, like Amputation and Balvas and
that's Fredrikstad, I think.
But from the area.
Östfold,
I know it's like an hour away, but still, you know. And I guess you didn't have that big of a relationship with every band, because there wasn't too much to have a relationship with.
No.
You know, it wasn't vast discographies. You didn't really know who any of these people were and stuff like that. At least when you got a demo. But
how did you come across demos?
Tape trading. That was
at age 13.
Yeah, I guess I started actively a bit later. But then, you know, there was quite a big scene in Askim back then. So you know, one of us bought one album and the other one bought another album, and then we traded off. You know, I guess Samael came out in 1991. and that was a big album. And we loved it in Askim, and so some guy bought that one and he taped it to the other guys, and then some records were actually starting getting out by then. You had Morbid Angel had done a few records, and they were quite noticeable already, And I remember buying Butchered at Birth, Cannibal Corpse, and Obituary, Cause of Death, and those kind of records, So, and you heard about this, it wasn't really that pronounced, but you heard about this even blacker genre, and that created curiosity. And you heard about like Mayhem. I'd never heard them, or I heard them some years ago, I think, at my friend's place, Sigmund. I think we had a conversation about him before we started the
recording. Yeah, he was the one who got the Pink record, Death Crush, right?
No, he actually got the demo, not the record.
Okay, the Death Crush demo.
The demo of Death Crush. It was released before the record, and he had that, and I listened to it at his place. I didn't really get it, but it was exciting in a way, It was some exhilaration. It was almost like you did something illegal.
Yeah.
It's like advancing, when you're 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, and you steal your father's porn movie, and it's sort of the same sensation that you're kind of crossing the line, but there's more to gain here, It's not on the same level as the porno movie, because there's a world opening up there, You reached it, you listened to that demo for the first time, and it opens this world of music, poetry, visuals, clothing, and so you get so much from it, And the backside of it is when you venture into that world, it also opens up a world of movies, books, literature, all these things comes because you chose to open that small door sometimes in your adolescence,
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
But at the age of 13, did you then, you got into more and more extreme music? Did you at some point go back and check out that demo tape that your friend showed you years back?
Yeah, I guess everything went really fast from the age of 12, 13 to 14. I was, a full-fledged black metal guy, From 14 years old, I only wore black clothes. I had the long, like the really long hair and the Venom t-shirt. And so I guess, 12 and a half, 13, you started sniffing on the door, and by 14, you ran through it, You were already part of it, and I had started making guitar riffs and, everything.
But how long did that first Satan band last?
Oh, not long at all. 1990, couple of rehearsals, I guess, and I don't know if everybody has that experience now, but back in the day, when you had to find members for your project, you couldn't really have a bias, You just had to find that guy who wanted to play with you,
Yep.
So I find a drummer. He didn't like metal at all, but he played drums.
Yes.
So great.
Yep. Yep.
So that's how you did it. Now you have the luxury. Now people are coming. To me. And you don't have to search in that way anymore. So I guess we lasted a few rehearsals and then nothing happened. But then the seed was spawned. And it all went from there.
What was the next thing?
Next thing was actually in Askim. Like I said, it was quite a big scene here. So
back to the Askim thing. I can't seem to wrap my head around Askim being some sort of metal hub.
Wow, man! We had in Askim and the local areas around there. We probably had 30 people into metal, and it's a fucking small place.
It's a small place.
Yeah. And this is like the early 90s, like the 1990 and the 1991 92 era, we had a lot of metal guys.
But were you basically the same age, or were there older guys too?
A few older guys as well. They seemed a lot older back then, at least,
Yeah.
If I was 14 and they were 18, that was a lot.
Perhaps they had a mustache,
Yeah, mustache and a Metallica patch, and they knew the shit. They've been to a few shows, and they could tell you, show you the ropes, So it was pretty great. And then out from that, I guess, I don't know, 10, 12 people went on into black metal.
Yeah.
And started dressing black. And maybe the 20 other people, they stayed behind. A lot of them came later, actually, a few years later. But at that time, a few people were mature isn't really the right word, but was ready to get into it, where another few people, or the 20 other people, were more tentative,
Yeah.
Because of everything that was happening as well, the church burnings that would come later, and or came in 91, I think, and the murder and the suicide, and a lot of people, that was a deterrent, But for a few of us, that was a motivation, strangely enough.
But you were a bit younger than those guys, I suppose.
Yeah, but like Edvard from Street, he's only 1 year older, so we were both the young bucks in the.
He's from Askim too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not really from Askim either. He's from the west of Norway, but like me, he was placed in Askim. His adolescence,
Yeah, no choice. So he just moved there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Back into the next band you started up.
Yeah. So the next band was called. So silly, Cryptus. So it's a self-composed word, I think, So it was called Cryptus, and we did a demo, actually. We did a demo in 92. It's just a rehearsal. We called it The Book, I think, because the whole thing was a story. I don't have that demo myself anymore. I know, like, the drummer still has it, but he's looking for it so he can send it to me. It's not very good, but that was the next chapter, and then we kind of morphed into Manes, not the Manes in Trondheim, but we didn't know about Manes in Trondheim, and we made a demo in 1993, and we just called it Promo 93. That's
okay.
Because we thought, we'd surely get a record deal on this. It's so great.
But was this black metal?
Yeah. Both of those bands were black metal. Like pure black metal. Pictures with corpse paint and all that shit.
What were your influences for those bands?
About that time, 92, you were well versed. You listened to Hellhammer, Bathory, especially the old bands had a big grip on your consciousness, Of course, some of the new bands as well, but there weren't too many new bands yet, Of the new bands, the ones that stick out is Mayhem, and the first Bursum album came out 1991, I think.
Yeah.
And so obviously we were mad about that, and Immortal was starting out, and we had heard about Immortal from previously, their demo Amputation, their death metal demo. But there weren't a lot of bands, Then you had Samael and Alastis in
Switzerland,
right? And you had, I guess, a few Swedish acts.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot. So I guess the real tie went into the old bands, It was, something you sought into.
Bathory and Hellhammer, such.
Yeah, that was my two favorite bands at that point. When I moved from Askim in 93, so this has to be in 92 or 91. I had like a homemade battery patch on my leather jacket, And that was something that was really cool about that revival of these old artists as well, that everything we did to support them was homemade,
I've actually seen lots of those patches and painted jackets among you elders, as I like to call you.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really cool thing,
Yeah, you couldn't get a hold of it. And if you wanted their albums and stuff like that, you had to get lucky in a record shop, a secondhand record shop, you could find it. And you could find like great stuff to silly prices. Like, I remember finding like Emperor's Return, Celtic Frost for like 25 kronos, which is about €2, So
That's insane.
It's insane, yeah.
And another thing is that you sometimes you have to tape copy stuff from an album to a tape, and then it becomes generation copies.
Yeah.
And then you actually achieve some sort of necro sound.
Yeah.
That just adds to the atmosphere. You know?
Yeah. And tape trading was a big thing. That's how basically you grew your collection, because when you are 13, 14, 15, you can buy maybe 10 records a year. That's what you can afford, So you need to know all these people from here and abroad that has some interest in your records, and you show interest in their records, and they make tapes for you and send you. And maybe this is wrong, but for me, that's what the scene grew out of. That's the scene, the tape trading scene. That's what became the bands. The record labels, the promoters.
I just have to kill the cat. I'm sorry.
The cat is killing my interview.
Please continue, Yusaf.
I think I was at the end. Like I said, I think that the tape trading scene back in the early 90s is what actually became the scene.
Yeah.
That those people became the bands, the labels. Is the cat doing all right?
Yeah. I give it some time now. Let's see. One more chance.
He's a young boy.
He's a young boy. It's his birthday today.
Yeah, 4 months.
Yeah. Welcome to the Cat Show.
Hee.
Yeah, all right. But you had a couple of bands, and did you ever perform live? No, okay. So
Never.
You're yet to come to that.
Yeah, live. I remember the closest thing I came to live was we played at a youth center. That was our rehearsal place. So sometimes at rehearsal, we would invite everybody downstairs, This was mostly people that didn't have anything to do with metal or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they would stand in there and watch. That's the closest thing I came to a concert,
That was at the church in Askim?
No, the church was in Stockholm. I'm sorry, I lived so many places. But, when I moved to Askim and those second and third bands emerged, my first band was in Stockholm. And we played at the youth center, like a youth club.
Yeah.
You go to maybe twice a week after school, and you can buy your soda pop and your pizza, and you can hug the ladies, and you can dance if you're popular and stuff like that.
And your parents get some time off.
Yeah, and they loved it. So sometimes we invited everybody upstairs to come down to the rehearsal place in the cellar and listen to us. So I guess it's sort of a show. You're showing off, at least,
Yeah, sure.
So, but, as far as paid concerts and stage engineers and gear and stuff like that, that wasn't until 95.
Yeah, okay. But did you go to any concerts?
I wasn't really a big concert fan, and to this day, I'm not really. I'm more, I'm more into the art of producing, records, and the vision initially is caught on the album, and that's kind of where the photography is taken, and then you try to recreate it on a stage, which is interesting enough. But I've always been more of a studio person, I guess.
Then, because I'm more the kind of guy who likes to go to the concerts and go to like Inferno and hang out and be part of the social club.
Yeah,
part of it,
Yeah.
But you're kind of different from that then.
Yeah, I guess I enjoy the social club as well, in the sense that in the beginning I enjoyed the social aspect of it because it wasn't really that many people to hang around with. When I moved to Oslo in 93, we were probably like 50, 60 people. That's it. So the social scene wasn't really concerts. Concert was something that happened once a month, or because we didn't go to Cannibal Corpse concerts anyway.
No.
We just wanted the underground shit. So the social scene was really in the bars, and that brings us to Elm Street and Lusalotte's pub and those places. So I enjoyed that social aspect of it, and I think growing up in black metal in that time probably is what has made me insensitive or not that bothered by concerts. It's not the important aspect of music making, in my opinion. I enjoy it, and I want to get better at it because I'm a lot better studio guy than I'm a live musician. So I still feel that that's a venture that's pretty fresh, even though I've done it since '95.
Okay. But did you ever, when you moved to Oslo in '93?
Yeah.
So you moved there about the time the store opened and all that stuff? Helvete and stuff?
Yeah, Helvete was closed by then. Øystein Aarseth, he got killed in August of '93, right?
Yeah, I think perhaps, yeah.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times he had his store closed a lot of times, prior to this as well. So sometimes you could show up there and there was nobody there, just a locked door, So it was not a business in the sense that we think of a business today, but it was a really cool place, man.
So you went there?
Yeah, a lot of times. I loved talk to Øystein because he had the time for you. Even though you were 13 years old, he took the time to speak to you.
Okay.
And, we were about the same height.
I thought he was really short.
And I was short when I was 13 as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was the joke.
You're a long fellow now.
Yeah, I stretched a bit. Yeah.
You're taller than me.
I am?
I think so. Yeah. So when you moved to Oslo, what happened music-wise with your bands and stuff?
Yeah, I guess I moved to Oslo because of the music thing. I saw that it wasn't really happening. And I don't want to, I love those guys that I used to play with back then. So I don't want to, shit on them or anything. But I didn't feel they had the same drive or dedication, Yeah. So they weren't willing to put their all into this, At one point, they were, in part playing in a band, and then they had other aspects of their lives they enjoyed. Maybe it was tennis or, golf or whatever. But for me, it was just this.
Primarily focus.
No, it was just this.
Yeah.
This was everything I lived and I breathed. Black metal. That was it, And I went into it with heart and soul, which meant I would risk being, arrested on offenses and thrown to jail and stuff like that. That mattered to me in the sense that I thought it was great, not that I thought it was detrimental. You know? So just doing this was the most important thing to me, and I figured out that wasn't going to happen in Askim. It wasn't going to happen there. At least with those guys, they went on, and they did maybe the right thing, because they focused on their educations and stuff like that. Whereas I said, fuck that. I'm not going to do that.
But when you moved to Oslo, how could you pay your way in there? Did you live in a collective or did you?
I didn't live any place at all.
Okay.
Yeah. I asked my parents to drive me here Easter 1993, and I said, I don't know when I'm going to be back, and I stayed there. And, I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but I knew Carl Sral.
Yes.
We have gotten to know each other because I made the trips to Oslo, to Helvete, and to Elm Street, even though I was too young, It wasn't that strict back then, They let you in if you had the money, to drink. They just wanted business. So it wasn't that strict back then. So I went to pubs probably at the age of 14, 15 and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you meet all these guys. The first people I met was Shagrath, of Dimmu Borgir, Garm, Ulver, Carl Michael, of course. probably around 10 guys or something like Frost and, you know, everybody that was into kind of the social scene in Oslo. And me and Carl Michael, we really got along. And at that time, he wasn't really happy being in Ulver. He didn't feel like that was the right place for him, you know. Maybe he has other thoughts about that now, so don't put so much into my story. But back then he said, like, it's not going in the direction I want to, you know. So, and since there are more people involved in the creative direction there, we're kind of tugging. It's a tug of war between more people. So he would, you know, I really felt from a get-go that he was really, really keen on forming a new band, you know. Yeah. And then you have me that lives in Askim, meets this guy at the pub, and he's very competent. He's already recorded the Vargnat demo, so I've already listened to him, and I thought it was great, you know, like, wow. And then he showed me that he could play guitar, and he could play bass, and he could sing, and I was in awe, you know, what a guy. And thinking that he was keen to, like, he sent signals that he was really keen to do a band with me. He wasn't really happy in Ulver, and I wasn't really happy with my situation, with my band, you know, because it wasn't going anywhere, you know. Yeah. So that made a marriage, you know, like a marriage to this day, I presume, you know. And so I just took the chance, you know. Easter, school was off. I knew I wasn't going to finish school anyway, so I said, fuck that. And I asked my parents to drive me to Oslo, and they let me off in Oslo, and I said, I don't know when I'm going to be back. I knew that Carl had a rehearsal place, so I called Carl, or I went to his place, I don't even remember. This is before mobile phones, so he probably had made an appointment to meet me in Oslo, at Elm Street probably, or something like that. And he gave me the keys to the rehearsal place, and I lived there.
Wow. So you were kind of slumming it then?
Yeah, and I loved it. It was freedom, man.
And go to pub every night and hang with the guys and...
Basically, I could do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Every night. And it gave me such a sensation of freedom. And I would never do that in the age of 43, you know. Sell the apartment or, you know, give up the rent, I mean, or... move out and live in a rehearsal place. Obviously, I won't, but I love that era. It was, magic, pure magic.
But it's innocent somehow too, you know, since you're 14, you know.
At that time, I'm close to 16 by 93. Yeah.
You never went back to school.
Yeah, I did. In my 20s, I guess, or.
So you were supposed to go into high school then.
I did the first year of Elektrolinja.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I knew fuck this, you know. I don't want to do this. I want to go home and make music and write dark lyrics and read like really stuff that was really out there, you know. Read about serial killers and all that stuff that was kind of hidden to you, you know. You got a taste of writers like LaVey, and not that I think he's a great writer today, but before that point, this was an aspect of social life that was hidden to you. Nobody told you about this stuff, you know. So finding it really encouraged you to just make your own choices, I guess, you know.
That's fascinating. But how long did you slum it like that?
You know, I guess for half a year or something like that before I could sort myself out. And sorting myself out wasn't really sorting myself out. It was getting a girlfriend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then obviously she lived with her father, and I, you know, not that I moved in there because I didn't. I still lived at the rehearsal place, but I could sleep over at her place every night, you know, or every other night or whatever. And then you kind of have an anchor suddenly, you know.
Of course.
And from there you just build, you know. And, you know, a year later you move into an apartment and you know, you just restructure your life. But this time you're doing it on your own terms, you know.
Yeah. But music-wise, what happened with you and Kalle?
Yeah. We went ahead, and I guess Ved Buens Ende came out of it, you know. Like slow.
Okay, so that was your first Oslo band?
Yeah.
Okay.
it slowly morphed into Ved Buens Ende. We didn't know if obviously he couldn't take the Ulver name and he never wanted to either. So that was never on the table, and continue that with me. And so we talked about maybe he joining Manes.
Okay.
But then, what he brought to the table was music-wise was so much deeper, content-wise, that it didn't really fit that mold. So we kind of figured out, no, this should be something on its own. And it's actually Garm that gave us the name. And this is a really, really interesting thing, that the rehearsal place we had in Skippegata, dead center in Oslo, all the bands rehearsed there.
Okay.
Mayhem rehearsed there, Arcturus rehearsed there, Ulve rehearsed there, Ved Buens Ende rehearsed there, Dødheimsgard rehearsed there. Even at some points, Satyricon borrowed some practices there. Gorgoroth even came over, preparing for a few shows, borrowing our rehearsal place to make it happen, and...
Was that, didn't they have their first show in Oslo?
Yeah.
Around that time?
So prior to that show, like a day before, 2 days before, they borrowed our rehearsal place to run through the tracks.
Okay.
So it was really, everything was really close-knit back then, because there were only 50, 60 players,
Yeah.
That's it.
You don't need social media because you ran into each other each and other day, you know?
And even the West Side scene, if you can call it that, the people emanating from Bergen and the west side of the country, you even had contact with them, either by talking on the phone every once in a while, they came over to Oslo, came to Elm Street, and they knew they would find us there, We were sitting there every night, at least some of us, So there were so few players. When I said 50, 60, probably weren't even that, probably 40, 50, players in the scene in Norway at that time, That was,
Look today, it all blew up.
Yeah, it all blew up.
Most of them are legendary characters.
Yeah, definitely. And rightfully so.
It's fascinating. It really is. I never got the chance to check out Lusa Lottes, but I went to Elm Street for many, many years, of course. But by that time, it had cooled down,
Yeah. Yeah, for me, any area of Elm Street is, special. But obviously, the most special area is, the beginning to the mid-90s, I guess,
Yeah.
Then it became kind of a tourist place after a while,
Yeah.
In the second part of the 90s, people coming over from Italy and Germany. And
Blackpackers?
Blackpackers, yeah, that's the word for it, yeah. And obviously all of them were looking for Fenriz anyway,
Yeah, and like you look for Lemmy at the Rainbow,
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And they usually found him, I guess.
Yeah, he was there all the time. And I really have to give a lot of credit to Fenriz in that regard, because he's really the guy that held this scene together. Because I'm second generation, Satyr is second generation, Frost is second generation,
Yep.
Ulver is second generation. All these bands, are second generation. So when it comes to the first generation bunch of guys here in the east side of Norway, there was only one guy left. The other guys had either gone under the ground, quit doing this, were in prison, and there was one guy left, and that was Fenriz. And he sat at the bar, and he welcomed us all in, So we really have to give a lot of credit to Fenriz. I don't even think Fenriz would want it, but that's the truth. That was the anchor of the scene.
But didn't you do something together with him?
Yeah, actually, we. That's also quite a funny story, I think. We hit it off, like I met him because I worked I got a job after a while, not a really good, we call it a praksisplass here in Norway.
Okay.
Which means that the government really pays you shit for an employer to have you at the workplace. So the employer doesn't pay you, the government does.
Yeah.
But the government gives you a ridiculous amount of money. It's like 800 euros something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so divided on 2, so you get maybe 400 euros for 2 weeks, and then another 400 euros. It wasn't even that. It was like 600 euros at that point. You know, so obviously with that salary, you can't get an apartment or anything. You know. Which is, you know, if you have a girlfriend, you can live at her place.
Yeah.
And you have 600 euros for your pockets, you know. So,
No question to chip in.
you know, I won't talk about this generation, but for my generation, all of us guys, 16, 17 years old, we were all assholes.
Egotists.
You know, think about it. We were on the verge of this big thing.
Yeah.
We were the most important players in a musical genre that hadn't taken off yet.
Yeah.
So obviously we were the shit, you know?
No, I get established that you got a job.
Yeah.
At last.
Yeah, that's how I met Fenriz.
Fenriz.
Yeah, no, because I worked I got a praxisplass in a studio.
Yeah.
And
Sound studio?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't just a sound studio, it was a sound studio. And they had a rehearsal place there.
Yeah.
And they had like youth clubs there. And you could also, if you had a band there that played in one of the rehearsal room or rented there, you could also play concerts at some months and stuff like that. It was a really solid thing, actually. It was the producer of 666 International, Björn Bugge, who ran it back then, you know. So we didn't really like each other back then. He thought I was like a kid, but our lives intertwined later, you know, when we recorded the album. But, you know, since it was a studio, Valhall was there to record an album, and I was working there, you know.
Yeah.
So I didn't work the studio, I worked the catering. So I made the breakfast for them or something like that, you know, in the dining area, because it was a really fancy place, you know. And I knew Fenriz was coming. I knew this guy, you know. Like I had his records, you know. So and he sat down on the couch, and I sat on the other couch in the recreation area, and there was 2 acoustic guitars there, and we didn't say a word. And he played a riff, and then I played a riff, and then he played a riff, and then I played a riff, and no words were spoken. At some point, we just left the guitars and did something else, you know. So. But I remember hearing from somebody else, I don't remember who that was, that probably one of my mates, you know, maybe it was Carl or Garm or something like that said, Fenriz told me he met this guy at Stovner Rockefabrik, which was the place, and he played these great riffs, and I was so honored, you know. So I guess the next time I saw him at Elm Street, I kind of thought that
So this was before you talked to him at the pub?
Yeah, I hadn't even seen him at the pub.
Okay.
But I think that this is probably, he's not 100% back at the pubs yet, you know, because he also disappeared for some times before he re-emerged. You know? So this is the first time I kind of met him, you know, and when I saw him sitting there one day at Elm Street, I just approached him, you know. And we kind of hit it off from there. And I don't know, several months later, we started like having a pool competition or something like that, you know. Playing pools, both of us broke, and he was leading by a really great margin. So at some point he said like, hey man, why don't we do something else, you know? Because I'm leading by such an amount, you'll never kind of catch up to me, you know? And I said, yeah, why don't you join my other band, Dødheimsgard? And he was like, no, that's not for me, you know? Like, but I saw that he was intrigued, you know, doing something besides Darkthrone, something else, you know?
Yeah.
That's, he could start joining from the ground up. And also help out in a way, help out in the sense that he puts a stamp on it, in the sense that these guys are paying their dues, you know. So you know, I said, whatever, man, you know, it's up to you. And at some point, we left it. We just left it there. I left it. I didn't nag on him or anything. At some point, he said, hey, let's go rehearse, you know. Let's just do that. And we did a rehearsal. And I said, okay, so are you joining the band? he said, no, this was just a rehearsal. It's not for me.
Oh, did he play drums or did you play drums?
I played the drums.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just a, whatever, playing riffs and jamming, And I said, so are you joining the Dødheimsgard? I thought maybe I pushed him in the right direction. And he said, no, it wasn't about that, I just wanted to jam a bit, something like that. So, and I left it. I didn't say anything more. And then one day, he just came barging into Elm Street, and I was sitting in the back, and he had really heavy steps, and the crooked back and all, and the hair in the face, and he went straight up to me, and he took his hand out, and he said, so, am I in the band? And that's how we joined Dødheimsgard.
Wow. That's a cool story, man. But was that sort of only a name that you had in the planning, or was it already a project in the works?
No, it was me and Björn's band, and it's Björn who came up with the name as well. So, and it's because it's an old lyric of his. So it's not really a band name of ours. It's actually a Dimmu Borgir lyric.
Oh, really?
Have you heard For Alltid?
Yeah, the album.
Vandrer hen til Dødheimsgard. So that's where it's from, but it's his lyrics, though. So it's Björn wrote the lyrics for this is the song is called "Overblekt and the blåner til dommedag," I think. Yeah.
That might be correct.
So that's interesting trivia.
That's cool. But what does it mean? The word? Is it kind of heaven or is it kind of hell? Is it?
Yeah, I guess it can be both because it's a composite word. So I guess the meaning isn't inherent. I guess there's no inherent meaning in any words, but less so in a name like Dødheimsgard because there is no experience of using the word in any setting.
Did he made up the word?
Yeah, I guess
make
so.
it up.
Yeah,
okay.
I guess so. He made it up for the lyric.
Could be some post-mortem place to be,
Yeah, I defined it as like I told him.
Valhalla or something.
I was very conscious about that. That you always have to have clever stuff to say in interviews. Don't go into an interview without knowing your shit. That was something I was really occupied with, even in the early years. So I said we need also to conceptualize what this means, and so we should take the components of the words and take their individual meaning and see if they fit together. And I said that you have death, and then you have heims, which is home,
yeah.
and God, which is another, maybe a bigger place but the same definition,
farm,
like a farm or something like that. So I said this translates really good to like the kingdom of death or the realm of death.
Yeah.
Just the other way of saying it. So we went with that. Yeah, okay, that's our definition of the word.
So only the two of you were jamming then.
Yeah, the first time we jammed, it was only me and Fenriz. But then when he joined, all three of us came together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the songs started coming together and then...
Yeah, everything just happened back then. Both with Ved Buens Ende and Dødheimsgard, you didn't really have to put any effort into it because everything just materialized on its own. And I kind of missed those times in the sense that you didn't overthink it. You didn't overthink your art.
Was this happening simultaneously?
Yeah. So I guess...
Which band recorded demos and albums first?
I don't even remember. I think the Ved Buens Ende demo came in 94, and the Dødheimsgard demo came in 95. Yeah. So
okay.
Ved Buens Ende, I think Those Who Crest the Pale is probably 94. Yeah.
When did that album come out?
Kron til konge?
No, the Ved Buens Ende album.
Written in Waters came out in 95.
Yeah, okay.
And Dødheimsgard in 95 as well. The thing is that all this happened pretty simultaneously,
Yep.
So there's probably just a few months between starting one band and the other, I didn't know Björn or Aldran when I came here to Oslo, but I knew his good friend called Sigmund, he was called Grellmund on the Ulver demo, because they had a band together that was called Härfärd.
Okay.
So I got to know Aldran through the Ulver bass player then, basically, before the album, in the demo era.
Was he doing Dimmu at the same time as this?
Altran.
Yeah?
No, he just wrote lyrics for them. I think.
Oh, he sang on the album, right?
I sang on the album, but I was never a member either.
On the Dimmu album?
Yeah, I sing on Korpens Svinger or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
I even sing a bit on the second Stormblast album.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not even singing. It's like a long scream or something like that. They wanted like a 1 minute scream, and I was. It's so silly. I was known for the guy that could really hold my breath for a long time, and really just scream for a long time into the microphone.
Bragd.
I was really proud.
Oh man, you did more stuff than I knew about. So,
but like I said, we were such a close-knit group back then, So if you ended up at somebody's place and you were drunk, somebody would say, can't you join the record?
Deal.
Yeah, So I think both me and Aldran did the second Isengard record as well,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought he did that on his own.
Yeah, we just contributed some vocals to it, And, it's another story. I was at Fenriz' place and he said, hey, can you put a scream on here and do something? I said, sure. And we did it. And, we drank and I went to sleep. And
on the famous 4-track?
Yeah, on this Necrohell. Yeah, this famous 4-track at his place in Vinterbro.
Wow.
And we went, we drank our brains out and I went to sleep. And the next morning I woke up, because he was playing what I did over and over again. And Fenriz came into my room and he said, "Ha, woken by his own scream." And he went out of the room.
He was just waiting for it.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, this is good trivia, man. You need to come with tidbits like this. This is the interesting part.
You ask the questions, man, and I'll tell the stories.
It's not an interview, I told you. Just spill it.
Yeah. But you need to guide me in the right direction.
I will try. I'm a bit rusty. I'm so sorry, man. But did both bands get a record deal at the same time?
When you have Fenriz in the band, it's not difficult to get that record deal.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So we never even released a demo. We put 3 songs on a promo tape and we gave it to our friends. And it's actually the album recordings. And to this day, people ask me, hey, can I release the demo on vinyl? And I say, it's the same as the album. It's never been a fucking demo, It's just the 3 songs from the album, unmastered.
I think the same goes for the Death Crush thing,
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I don't know. I think it's strange in the sense that you have this guy, he's approaching you, he's such a big fan.
Yeah.
And he wants to release this demo of yours, and he doesn't even hear that it's the same recording as the album. I don't know. I just think it's strange. Yeah.
But you just rolled into it. Was it Peaceville?
No, back then it was Malicious Records. You heard about that?
Yes.
And he had a band from here as well. From here, I can call every band from Østfold from here now.
It is here.
Kamfar.
Yes.
It's Halden, right?
No, it's Fredrikstad.
Ah, it's Fredrikstad.
Yeah. In Halden, there's only Mork.
Okay, forever and ever?
I don't know in the future, but in the past, it's only Mork.
Yeah?
Doing black metal.
What about in an alternate universe? Who's here then?
You're kind of far out kind of guy. I'm not.
Okay.
I don't know.
I guess in that universe, Europe was from Halden or Iron Maiden.
I think so.
Yeah.
Black Sabbath is from Skjeberg. Okay, so you kind of just rolled into record deals.
Yeah, we had a very good deal. He was, he just gave us half of everything, Obviously, that wasn't a good deal business-wise in the sense of longevity,
Yeah.
So it was good in the sense that you got a good deal that was attractive and, we got some money and like that. But what we didn't know was that this label would go bankrupt, and he didn't pay his taxes and stuff like that, so the government was after him. So he released our 2 first albums with Dødheimsgard,
Yeah.
And then it all went to shits, and I kind of figured it out, before things were going down. I just felt something was wrong. I don't know why. Maybe it was the communication with label decreasing. So we recorded the Satanic Art album, and I sent him the bill because I knew he owed us a lot of money. Why haven't he paid us lately? So I knew something was going on, and probably by then the government was on him, but he didn't tell us. Malicious Records.
Did you tell me where they were from?
Germany.
Germany, okay.
His name is Gerrit Weyer, and I don't know. I don't want to paint him out as a bad guy, but facts are facts.
Yep.
He signed a band. He made
contracts.
He made a promise. He didn't pay his taxes. The label went to bankruptcy. He went to jail for it, and he didn't tell us. And if I have something to blame for, is that, he could have given me a call. We talked every week, if we go half a year back, from there. He could have told me, I'm in real problems. I don't have the chance to pay you, man. I'll go to jail for it.
At least he's honest,
Yeah, he didn't do that. No. So he wasn't honest. No. So that he could have done that, then I would just have given him a pat on the back and said, yeah, sure, because it's not about that. But it becomes about that when people are trying to fuck you over.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, so what I did, I thought, okay, I have to get the most out of this, because I know now, I have the feeling I'm not getting my money. I don't think this label will exist in a year. So we recorded Satanic Art, the mini EP of Dødheimsgard, and I sent him the bill.
Yeah.
And he paid the bill, and I went to another label, and I gave it to them.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Because I knew, the communication between me and him, it's just, wasn't there anymore. The what he owed us was piling up, really quite huge sums as well, 20,000, 30,000 euros, And we were only, 2 people in the band.
Was that advances or royalties or?
Royalties. So
okay.
So of sales. So that's yours. That's yours.
Yeah.
That's you selling your record.
Of course.
So so I just had the feeling. So like I said, I just needed to make sure I could get some of it back. So we recorded it, we sent him all the bills, and we gave the record to Moonfog. I called Satir, I told him about the situation. I said, hey, we're on this label. They paid for everything, but they're fucking us over. I know it. Do you want the record? And he said, I haven't heard it. I'll send you the tape, and, give me some feedback. I know Satir wasn't a big fan of Dødheimsgard at that point.
No, but Moonfog was kind of fresh then, right?
Yeah, I guess, Tatra Records released Dark Medieval Times in 1992. So, by that standard, it wasn't fresh.
92? Was it that early?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought it was 94 or something.
90. Okay, let's stick to the middle ground. 93.
Yeah. Okay.
But, everything is about perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're half a year old and you have your first birthday, that's half your life.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're 43 years old and you get 44, that's a really small percentage. So if you think about the black metal scene in the 90s, Moonfog releasing their first stuff around 91, 92, and then, go ahead to 97, that's a long time.
That's
historically speaking, that's 5 years later.
Yes.
In a really tight-knit era.
Of course.
So they were viable, they had Thorns, or at least had plans to release it, and Satir was never the guy that signed a lot of bands, and
they got Dark Throne too.
They got Dark Throne, and
was that the same time you talked to him?
Dark Throne went to to Moonfog in 94, I think, or something like that. 95 was the first release on Moonfog.
I think Panzerfaust was the first one, right?
No, Panzerfaust was... Yeah, it
I
was.
think so,
yeah.
actually.
Because Panzerfaust, I think, basically, Fenriz did a Yusaf, or Yusaf did a Fenriz. I think it was the same deal there, where Panzerfaust actually should have been released on Peace Wheel, but Fenriz fucked them over.
Just flipped the bill kind of thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So...
because they did some not so popular things with the previous one, you know?
I don't even think maybe it's that. I think...
the statement on the previous album, you know?
Yeah, you know, but it wasn't Peace Wheel releasing Dark Throne. I think just for Fenriz at the time, obviously I can't read his mind, but I think it was more attractive being with the boys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
sure.
Not being on this corporate label, but being with the boys. Because we did everything together back then, you know. We were, like I said, all of us shared the rehearsal place, you know. And if we wanted a Celtic Frost t-shirt, you couldn't find it, so we printed it ourselves, you know. But we just printed it to the guys.
Yeah, you didn't bootleg it?
No, we printed it to 30 people, just the guys around. And, you know, they paid 100 for it, and that's what you paid for it, you know, for printing it. And
sure.
So, so it wasn't any earnings or something like that. And it was never any wholesale anywhere else, but it was just because we couldn't get a hold of stuff anywhere else, you know. So if we wanted it, we had to make it, you know. And then we, you know, if I made something, then I gave it to all the guys. And if Björn made, I think he made a Celtic Frost t-shirt, and he gave it to all the guys, you know, and they paid him back for his expense, and he bought a beer, and that was it, you know.
Yeah.
So,
it's the love of music, man.
yeah, you know, and he couldn't find it. So that, and I think Fenriz, you know, thought that, you know, Moonfog is the right move. I want to be with the boys.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, sure. But he signed you then, I suppose, Sigurd.
Yeah, he did. You know, he really liked the EP. And I sort of can anticipate or understand his surprise in the sense that our EP was totally different to what we did before. Because Satir wasn't that impressed with our two first albums, you know. And, you know, he said, yeah, I was at your rehearsal and I really liked it, but I think the album is pretty mediocre. And he's always been really outspoken, you know. He doesn't hide things and stuff like that. And it didn't mean much to me, and I said, all right. But I knew the EP would be more to his liking, you know, because it was quite contemporary, I guess, you know. It was quite... Nobody had really touched that before, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. In the sense, you know, a lot of bands were at the speed, but when it comes to the... You know, Aldran has a really unique vocals. To this day, you know, nobody has kind of been able to impersonate him, you know. So that's a stamp. Then we had
and they had the stage presence as well.
Yeah, but we weren't at that point by then, you know.
No, but up to this point, when you signed to Moonfog, have you already been on a stage by now?
Yeah, one time.
Tell us.
With Dødheimsgard, twice with Ved Buens Ende.
Yeah, tell the stories.
No, I don't have much to tell about the Elm Street show because it was so mundane in the sense that we did that every week anyway, you know.
Now, which band did play at Elm Street?
Dødheimsgard.
Okay.
Yeah, so we went there every week anyway, you know. So it wasn't really...
So you played just for the local hangout, the gang?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
Yeah.
I guess it was about 100, 200 people there.
Which bands on the poster that night?
Just us.
One band?
One band.
Okay.
Playing all their shit.
Yeah.
Badly.
Rock and roll.
And Ved Buens Ende first concerts were in Germany and in London.
But that's a story.
95. Actually, Dimmu Borgir's first concert and Ved Buens Ende's first concert.
Same festival?
Dark Funeral's first concert. Or international concert. I don't know if they did something in their hometown, but like their first abroad show, same festival.
Same night?
I think also in the woods.
I did one of these with Sven, you know.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing. It was down there.
I know. That's what I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, great story. Me and Sven had Sven Atle had I guess a pretty close friendship back then, you know. You know, like we all had at some point a close friendship, and then we didn't like you, and then, you know, you went forth and back between all the players in the scene, you know.
Yeah.
So a few months you hang with this guy, and a few months you hang with that guy. But I remember when we were going home from that festival, me and Sven, we exchanged passports. So we said, you know, we were really drunk, and we said, okay, we'll switch passports, and we'll see if we get home. And so we did.
And you got home.
We got home. We're back home, Sven.
Oh, I love Sven. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he really is. I haven't talked to him a lot in the last few years, but I met him a few times now lately on shows, and it's been really nice to reconnect.
The three of us should hook up. It will be very nice.
I would love it.
I saw him just 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. He and Sjodalv, they both were down there that time in the woods.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
Good guys.
Yep.
Absolutely. So okay, so you did hit the stage, and how was it?
Excruciating.
Yeah.
No, it was unfamiliar. So
from only focusing on the art, as you say, to performing it.
Yeah, I don't even know if I felt at home, or I don't even know if I understood the concept of playing a show. I think what I did was basically doing what I did at a rehearsal place and putting it on a stage. Yeah. That was a show for me, because I'm so immersed in this creativity thing that I don't even recognize that a stage is actually another formula. Yeah. So what I'm thinking, I guess, I don't even really know, because I have to analyze my, 16-year-old mentality in my 40s, So, but I just think I went up there and thought like, okay, now I'm going to do what I do every time in a rehearsal place, but now I'm going to do it here instead. So I had no concept of being a showman or anything like that.
No, because studio and stage, that's totally separate for me, and I find kind of my own on stage, as a separate thing.
Yeah, but I guess you guys, that phenomenon has already existed when you kind of come up to the level of being performers that are invited to playing on a stage. We didn't know shit.
Oh.
We didn't even know that black metal bands were invited to play live,
No, but years and years before I started doing my black metal, I played punk rock and rock and roll, Okay. So I've been on stage since I was 13.
Okay, yeah. So I guess, because you have a musical background, like from your family side or something like that?
My father played drums, but not to my recollection. It was before my time.
Okay.
But I grew up on Creedence and stuff like that, and I listening to Sex Pistols and AC/DC and Maiden. And
I think the difference is that my mindset of playing in a band back then was only black metal. Black metal was all I knew, and black, like playing in a band, not being a music lover, but playing in a band.
Okay.
So. When
you tend to do what the community around you does, And in Halden, there weren't any black metal scene.
No.
My neighboring boys, they played punk rock.
Yeah.
Ramones, Sex Pistols, So that's what you did.
Yeah.
And then I came into my own later and found black metal.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there.
No worries. But what you have to realize is that when all of us young guys back then came into black metal, there were no black metal shows.
No.
Yeah. There were no festivals inviting black metal guys.
I see what you mean. There were no mold to go into.
No, there wasn't. You knew that Obituary was touring. You knew that Cannibal Corpse was touring.
Yeah.
You knew that Entombed was touring and stuff like that. But you also knew that you were separated from that, and you kind of took a bit of pride in it that you weren't invited to play festivals because you weren't a band. You were an entity. So that was the difference. Like, people were playing in bands. We weren't playing in bands. We were
something else,
expressing a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So that's why the stage thing wasn't really thought out yet.
No. Yeah.
So I had no clue. For me, this was just a trip, and I had no ideas. I didn't sit around thinking like, what should I do on the stage? Should I show my tongue? Should I?
How did you dress? Did you have separate clothes for the stage?
No, not in Ved Buens Ende. I just went up on the stage.
That was street on the stage.
Yeah, but my streetwear was pretty badass.
Okay, so but the London show was with the Ved Buens Ende.
Yeah.
Was this the same weekend as the other show?
No, it was
separate occasion.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we were in Germany in the summer. I guess it was warm, and there was no backstages in Germany, so all the bands were just piled in a room. That was it, and that room was our backstage. Yeah. It was our beds. It was like our whole area for the festival. So it was really cool, actually, because that meant all the bands there were mingling.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking to everybody because there was no separation of walls or anything. And there was no ego or pride either. There was no band there that was bigger than the other band. And so it was a really,
But this was in 95?
Yeah. In lack of a better word, there was a real brotherhood in that room,
Yeah.
It wasn't a separation,
But most of the guys in that room kind of shut off the starting point at kind of the same time.
Yeah, I guess, and we all had the same mentality. And I guess the mentality of a lot of people changed with the this being more successful. And
that comes with time,
Yeah, but it's not only that. It inhibits your ability to move around as you did. Let's use Metallica as an example, because Metallica is kind of the grand example of them all. Nobody's bigger. Nobody has done it better commercially. And I remember reading an interview with James Hetfield. He in that interview, he stated, like, we always try to mingle with the fans. We never tried to never mingle. But
to elevate ourselves from the fans.
But at some point, we just couldn't anymore because we just got crushed. There were so many people, that came and wanted to talk with us.
Yep.
And so at some point, we were separated with our core audience, not by choice, but by circumstance.
Yep.
And it's a really interesting point, that they're not really choosing this, they're pushed into it.
Yep.
And from there on, they're really ostracized from their own community. Now they're not really part of the scene anymore. Now they're just something part of their own. And I'm using this example, like when you come to black metal, obviously it's not Metallica, but this also happens on a small scale.
Yeah.
That all these bands are gaining popularity on their own right,
Of course.
And now the brotherhood is kind of gone, the commonality. Now you don't need kind of the positioning yourself together with somebody anymore. Now you can position yourself as an entity on your own. And I guess a lot of people went for that. And I'm not bashing it. I'm not saying it is bad, but I'm saying, like, we got something and we lost something.
Well.
But I'm old school, man. So I will always kind of have sentimental thoughts about our beginnings. And if you talk with like a 65-year-old guy that was into the punk rock scene, he won't be overly sentimental what's happening today. But if he was part of the punk rock scene in the 60s, his stories would be there. The essence of what the essence of what he was part of will be connected to the time when it was created, you know.
Of course.
You mean of corpse?
Of corpse. Sorry, Yusaf. But my point is that, you know, when the punk rock scene came along and happened, and the black metal scene came along and happened, it was all regarding youth.
Yeah.
And now you are grown-up men, all of you.
Yeah.
And some of you have families, some of you have jobs, some of you, you know.
Yeah. No, like,
things change because you never stay 18 forever.
No, I'm not, like I said, I'm not bashing it. I'm not saying it should have stayed the same.
No.
But I'm saying like the era is separated from the other. And for me, the first era is more special than the other because then it's where it all took form, you know?
The essence.
And you know, you have the beginnings. And I'm not saying that my experience is more special than anybody else's because everybody has their beginning, you know?
Yeah.
So that's individual. But for me, that was kind of something that happened there that will never happen again. Whereas when I go to tour today, it happens over and over. It's the same story. So you can't, you understand?
Yeah.
You can't rewrite the initial story, but you can rewrite what's kind of it has become.
Yeah.
You can do it all over and over and over and over. So that's the difference. One aspect of it is unapproachable, just caught in time, happened once, will never happen again. And then what came out of it, it's what's happening continuously.
Yeah, well put, sir. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. So what happened how was the cooperation with Mundfagen on?
You know, I always loved working with Satir, such a consummate professional in a way, you know, never any bullshit, always...
He's serious. You know?
No, I know everybody bashes him, but if you bash Sigurd, you have to bash him. You know, I know people call him, you know, fake and false and all that stuff, but that's just bullshit. To be fake, you have to be something you're not.
No, but he's a serious guy. He's focused.
He's focused. I'm not saying he hasn't been an asshole. Obviously, he has been an asshole. But I can't tie into that. I can say that, Maria told me he was an asshole. So now I think he's an asshole. You know, my experience with Sigurd has always been great, you know. Even though I know he's been an asshole. But I'll tell you what, Thomas, I've been an asshole.
I've been an asshole.
Yeah, so should I tell everybody, don't like me because I've been an asshole? No. So my experience with Satir in the Moonfog era has only been positive because, you know, he could call me, we spoke like every week on the phone and we could talk for hours. And then we talked business, we talked artistry, and then we talked cars maybe and tits and all that shit that young boys always talk about. So it was always, a really personal approach to his and my collaboration. And he always also took what I said seriously in the sense that, you know, he knew that other bands were doing it better. But, you know, like to this day when I meet these guys, you know, Frost as well, last time I met him, you know, one of his words was like, you know, Dødheimsgard. With Dødheimsgard, you're never going to get the credit you deserve, you know. And, you know, you can put so much into that. But I think that's really big of him to say, you know. So I'm not saying that to brag about me. I'm really putting the spotlight on him, you know.
Of course.
Like he has that clarity.
Yeah. And I think Frost or Kjetil, he knows what he likes, you know. He's true to his tastes and
I don't even
his words.
I don't even think Kjetil has to like it, to be honest, you know. He just has he has a good mind for no bullshit in the sense that he will try to speak about things as correctly as it can be spoken about. So he you know, and objectively speaking, that will mean that he can say things that are positive in relation to bands he doesn't like. I don't know if he likes the new Dødheimsgard or not, but I really appreciate the comment from him in the sense that he kind of also acknowledged my position in the scene, even though I sell a lot less records than him. So at that point, when we're having that conversation in the pub, he's kind of acknowledging that, Yusaf, I know, as you know, that that's not the most important thing. You know,
Yep.
So I show you this appreciation now.
You are true to what you believe in, you know, and you put your effort in.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the cred right there.
Yeah, but you know, it's easy to give yourself cred when it comes from somebody else.
Yeah, that's my point. When it comes from somebody else.
When you admire and you kind of grew up within the scene and they know your history and stuff like that, it really makes it worthwhile, you know. So, but back to Sigurd, always a great experience working with him.
How many records did you release with him?
I think only 2 and an EP, yeah.
So when was that partnership over? Was that the closing in on the millennium, or?
The last record we did with Moonfog was a Supervillain Outcast, and it happened in 2007.
But that late?
Yeah, but by then Sigurd Satir had left the ship, but he was enjoying quite a big success with Satyricon.
Yeah.
He didn't really have time for the label, so you know he should have done a better job then. But you know, what can you do?
It was left behind.
Yeah.
But that's a great album, by the way.
Which of them? Satyricon or?
No, your one, your album.
Okay, yeah.
Supervillain Outcast.
Most people kind of throw that one out the window.
I'm not the usual listener, I think.
Sip of beer.
Yeah. I've never been digging deeply into the catalog, but my guitar player in Mork, he's a big fan.
Yeah,
and
I met him.
Yeah, Alex, yes. He's a big fan of that album in particular.
Okay.
And he showed me that album, and I really enjoyed it.
You know, for me, how to put it, I don't even know if you can like your own albums. And if you can like your own albums, you can't like it in the same way as you like other albums because it's so closely tied to it. And then on the other hand, you can't dislike your albums because if you dislike your albums,
you would never release them.
You're an idiot.
Yes.
Yeah. So this becomes kind of a setting on its own that every other release from somebody external you appreciate in a different matter than you do your own material. So for me, my material isn't like an album that has to be given a grade on by myself. For me, my albums are kind of a history showcase, you know, a kind of a showcase of my life.
Yeah, it's a slideshow.
So what I did and what I did later, where I am now, where I'm going, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess that in the sense, even if I sell no records or 1 million records, that doesn't really matter because this is kind of the story I'm telling, you know. Yeah. This is my story.
Yep. Fair enough. And, you know, when I'm making an album, I'm digging it, you know. It has to be that way. Because the way, I don't know, maybe I make a different kind of black metal, you know. I'm more into the straight ahead, you know, fist in the face rock and roll kind of thing. Yeah,
your logo reminds a lot about the Darkthrone logo. Is there some connection between
There's really not, but you should think so.
Yeah.
But I'm of course influenced by Darkthrone.
Yeah.
But I'm also influenced by AC/DC and Creedence Clearwater Revival, you know.
Yeah.
So I have to feel it when I make it, you know.
Yeah, I guess feel it is a different word. So now we're changing kind of the word, you know. But what I'm saying is I can't appreciate my own art in the same way I appreciate other people's art. So I'm not saying I dig it, and then I'm not saying I don't dig it, because it's more close to you, you know. And it's listening to good music done by somebody else is kind of an instant satisfaction.
That's true.
Yeah. Whereas your own music, it's not only the instant satisfaction. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of pain. It's a lot of, you know, not knowing what to do next. And, you know, I hate this riff. Now I'm uninspired. What should I do now? Fuck this all, you know? Yeah. So it's a lot more going into what you listen to. Yeah. So when somebody listens to my record, they will have their own experience.
Of course.
And that will be purely external. It will be them listening to the record. Yeah. Whereas for me, when I listen to my record, I will have a sense what they're listening to, but on the other hand, I will also have the internal experience of what I went through in relation to the record. So, and that essence, I guess, sets it apart in relation to deem this record in the same way as I deem a record I like,
Yeah. I guess you distance yourself a bit from an album that you did 13 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not distanced to it. I think I'm so close to it that I can't really judge it on the same level as a record I didn't make, basically.
Oh.
Because it's so close, and it's all these experiences that's tied to it. You know, when I think about Kron til Konge, I have a lot of these experiences listening to it that I feel, and reminiscences that I told you about with Fenriz and Aldran, and how the name came up and all that. All that's tied to it. When I listen to 666, it's a different era, Yeah. Now we're into, we're into different kinds of music. Now we're more experimental. There's no secret that we went to a lot of parties and did a lot of beep and all that shit, So there's a sentimentality that's not only positive, that's tied to a record you make, because there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of things that go into that record. Whereas when you listen to a record you like, that's almost always 100% positive experience.
That's a good thing you mentioned. Experimental. You guys are way more experimental than what I am. So please tell me, what is your influences in going into that? Because most of the stuff you released has been
instrumental.
Experimental. I will cut that out. Experimental.
So you're editing yourself.
I will.
When you fuck up.
I will.
But not me, right?
But you never fuck up.
Yeah, I do. I think that's also explained in two parts. Being more experimental, on one hand, it's pushing the genre,
Yeah.
I grew up with bands that were all experimental. So how I remember it, there were no bands that were traditional.
No. Yeah.
Because Burzum sounded like Burzum.
True.
Mayhem sounded like Mayhem. Totally different to Dark Throne. Totally different to Immortal, totally different to Emperor, totally different to Enslaved. So they all were originals, So,
but they all nicked from some places,
Yeah, but
outside of black metal.
Yeah, but they nicked it, but they molded it to sound,
of course,
on their own. And I think that diversity is less now than before, but that also has to do about the fact that there's more bands now,
Yeah.
So having that in your milk, like the mother's milk, is that all these bands stands apart. Sorry, I really have to mention Snorre and Thorns here as well, because he's kind of the major player. And I think everybody is inspired. Everybody in this genre today is inspired by Snorre in some way or another.
Iridescent.
Yeah. And, Mayhem wanted to sound like Thorns. Immortal wanted to sound like Thorns. Everybody wanted
Burzum stole the riff.
Exactly. So, but all these players were so, they had their individual approach. So in my mother's milk, that's kind of the key. That's how you do it. That's how you elevate your band to the next level. That's breaking the mold. That's how you do it. You have to sound special. And I guess also as this scene is getting more and more conform in the mid-90s, because it did, because then, we went from 50 players to thousands of players internationally that wanted to play this kind of music. And for some reason or another, they liked one or two bands the best, and they wanted to sound like those bands. So that made us even wanted to tell them fuck off even more, So that's the external motivation.
I see. Yeah.
And then you have the internal motivation. And I think when it comes to, in the 66 era, you have Carl Michael. He was part of it. You have Aldran. He was a part of it. I was a part of it, obviously. And Svein Egil Hatlevik and Ole Jørgen Mo. I think most of us are a bit, always had been a bit on the outside of the black metal scene from the get-go anyway, So this was kind of embracing our inner nurture, And now we didn't have to take, we already paid our dues. We already made our records to pay our dues, Now we kind of had the supremacy to just say, fuck off. Let's do what the hell we want, And the criticism is part of it. That's what we wanted to see or sort out, in the sense that we welcomed it. We embraced it. So then you have the internal and the external motivation of how those records comes apart, And then as a third part, that we were also like my gang, Like my gang is Kalle and Björn and, probably a bunch of 10 peoples. We always listened to other kinds of music, We always met people in the black metal scene that said, no, you should only listen to black metal. But we never did that. So it's obvious that some influences will come into your records, because we never had that mindset. So to emphasize, we didn't listen to artists like Coil, or Diamanda Galas, or Thule. Thule is a rock band. That would have done it really good today, actually, with the kind of the melancholy and.
Isn't that the Swedes?
They're Norwegian from the north.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're thinking about Ultima Thule.
Yeah, I am.
Thule made an album in 92 called Nut. It's a fantastic record. Check it out. And Coil, it's, what genre is even Coil? I don't even know, Like they did their first record in the 70s called Scatology, it was heavy drum machines and I guess some sort of goth chanting, and they went into more experimental stuff with noise and, went into techno in the beginning of the 90s and came out as a rock band, and they did all that stuff. And that was inspirational to see that one entity called Coil doing all this different stuff during their career. For me, that said, now that's a story. They're telling a story. They're not a band just releasing the same record all over again. They're telling a fucking narrative that spans over 30, 40 years, And for anybody coming 50 years later, looking into Coil, they can go back to 1977 and they can go through this story they're telling that 40 years, and they can see all these changes and they can pair it up to culture and where was the world right now, what was the music technology, and they see this band telling all that, in the midst of their music. That's beautiful.
That's really impressive. I feel like an idiot now because I'm inside my bubble and making.
But you're telling your story.
That's true, but I'm not aware. I'm not open. My senses aren't taking in what's happening. You know?
I think you need a combination of both. You need the stayers and you need the pushers, And I think that's the only way a dynamic can work, And that's why also we embrace the role of being outsiders. That's our job, And so I will never bash bands like Satyricon or bands like kind of, okay, they didn't really stay in their mold. They made it simpler even, they're telling their story and they're kind of putting their spin on their black metal history, spawning back to the early 90s and where they are today. But we are telling our story, and it's completely different. And it's also based on the players that are involved, I'm half Indian. Of course that has something to do with it, And Svein Egil was always an awkward guy, grew up probably not having much friends and, really into books and, and we got this nerd into the band, probably a bit odd in the sense that everything in the black metal scene at that time was about like power, strength, I shall overcome, I will be superior, and stuff like that. So we kind of chose the more vulnerable approach in the sense that we have no power, we should probably never overcome, but we're okay with it. And we're telling
a bit more modest.
Yeah, but modest in the way that's okay, we're cutting all that bullshit, so let me tell you a true story instead of telling you a Lord of the Rings story, because if I want a Lord of the Rings story, I'll visit the cinema and watch a $1 billion production of it. When it comes to artists starting out in their basements, I want their true art, their honesty. Yeah. And I think that maybe the one thing that's gotten lost over the years, like that the business orientation of the business has become that a lot of players here aren't ready or willing to be honest. They're just telling a story, not their story.
Well, I think it brings us to present day.
Yeah.
And Ved Buens Ende is back.
Yeah. I guess we jumped 10, 12 years there, but that's all right. Ved Buens Ende is back, and it's just because of a show, basically. A friend of mine, she had her 40-year-old birthday, and she asked us to do a couple of songs, and we came together and we did the songs, and we enjoyed it. So
that was at the Revolver, right?
Yeah.
I think actually I was drinking at Kniven that night.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Because I met several people that were going downstairs.
Yeah.
I think this was a closed party, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was nearby, but...
So close.
So close, but no cigar. And Dødheimsgard is going strong, I guess.
Yeah, I'm finished with the pre-production of the next album.
Cool.
So, and I have a lot of plans actually for Dødheimsgard, a lot of plans on how to do things forward. I'm having a few surprises up my sleeve, not in the sense of the musical content that would always change a bit, but I'm just playing with a lot of interesting concept of what a band is. Is a band necessarily a single entity, or can a band be more than one entity?
But does it function as you solo-ish now that you are creating the music, or you're the sole songwriter?
The thing is, we all contributed in our own ways,
Yep.
And contribution in a band can be so many things. And sometimes it's also things that fans doesn't think about, like somebody answering all the mail, things that
the focal point,
Yeah, so I think everybody has their function. When it comes to the music making, people, it shouldn't be that much of a spectacle. Sure, I make the riffs, and I have been for a long time. But a player like Alran, for example, his lyrics and his vocals are equally, or was equally as important for those records, So it's not only about who is in the center, which brings me back to your question. So today, it's probably a bit of the same dynamic in the sense that I play with 3 other guys and they contribute a lot. They just don't contribute what you're asking about.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I contribute that part,
Yes.
So, but hopefully, dynamics can change. let's say not the next record, because I already fucking made that. A record after that one. Let's say some of the other guys make that one. Yeah, sure, why not?
So you made the new one and the next one already?
No, I made a next record. You know, like the follow up to Aumbra Omega. It's finished, and it's not finished recorded, but the pre-production of it, it's done. So
all right.
I have all the material. It's probably around 80 minutes or something like that. So I have a lot of material in excess of what would be on an album. Yeah.
Yeah. And you created a new band, Dold, Vorde, Navn.
Yeah, I didn't create it. I came in later, actually. Håvard and Kai. Kai is the old bass player of Dødheimsgard. He played on Satanic Art. And then Håvard, as you all know, played in Ulver and contributed a lot, man. So Satyricon, Myrkur,
yes.
You name it.
Yes.
So they created the band. I think they were just fooling around that day, like at Håvard's place, and let's make a black metal song. And I remember I was DJing one time at the Kniven, and Kai came in and he asked, "Hey, can you write some lyrics?" I said, "Sure, what do you want?" And he said, "No, I want something that's Harry." Very, very difficult to translate the Norwegian expression Harry, but I guess it means simple-minded,
Pompous, simple-minded.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I said, sure. And I started writing the lyrics, and it wasn't really going in the direction he wanted. I started writing in Norwegian, and I got a sense there for something I felt connected to. Suddenly, I wasn't writing for him, I was writing for me. But in a sense, I was still writing for him because he wanted the lyrics. So next time I met him and he wanted the lyrics, I said, you need somebody to perform the lyrics as well. And they brought me into the fold. They said, sure, let's try it out. And I said, okay, send me one song. I'll do a test. And if you like it, we proceed, And I hadn't even heard the songs yet. And this kind of a funny dynamics, because then I was invited to Håvard's place to hear the 4 tracks they had, which is on the EP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gjenganger I hjertets mørke. Which is, I didn't really, think that much of the songs. I thought, well, they're okay.
But you're a plain vocalist in this one.
Yeah, plain vocalist.
Yeah.
So the funny thing, what I'm approaching to is when I did the test for the vocals and I sent it to Håvard, he thought the same thing about my performance. He thought, well, this wasn't that great, So I think both my performance and Håvard's performance has grown on us, That I understand a lot better now what he's, where his mindset is and what he's trying to do, and vice versa. So it's an unlikely marriage. And we were driving in the car the other day, and I told him that's what's cool about this, because it's an unlikely marriage. So you not really know what's going to pop out in the end,
So this will continue. It's a project and a band that will go on.
Yeah, we made an album. The album is finished now as we speak. We got the first test mastering for the album yesterday actually.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and we're doing some minor changes and sending it back, and then it's done. Yeah, I'll play a song later if you want.
Please do. I have a stereo. What happens from now on? How has the COVID thing infected you? Or
it hasn't infected me yet.
No,
but it has affected me.
Affected you?
Not much. It's less shows, which means that I can be in my comfort zone and the environment I love, which is
the creative one.
Yeah, by myself in the studio.
Yeah.
So I'm a good thing about it is now I'm actually looking forward to doing shows as well and going abroad and because you got that separation from it and a longing heart it grows huger and huger if if you can't have it, you want it.
I miss it sorely. I do.
When was the last show you did?
You know what? We have actually played a lot this year.
Yeah.
But it has mainly been... We've done some streaming shows.
Yeah.
And we've done a couple of shows now with audience. Because they're beginning to let them in, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Like 50 there and 200 there. Kind of thing. Everybody's sitting and there's Ante back and stuff, you know. But I'm really missing to go abroad.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I miss it too, you know. But I don't know. For me, doing shows it's an experience
You've grown into it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I have. And I also enjoy it more when I get home. The sensation of it, the memory of it, and stuff like that. It's always a bit of a hassle.
I love the trip. I love everything around it, actually.
Yeah.
Just going on the road with the guys, with my boys, you know.
Yeah.
That's the great thing.
Yeah, it can be. And for me, it can be that, and it can be something else, you know.
Yeah.
But I guess, there's always something positive to be drawn out of anything, you know. And I like sitting on the road and missing going home.
Yeah.
I like it, you know. I like being separated, I guess, you know. So,
Yeah.
And when I sit on the road and I'm stuck there for 3 weeks, you know, I enjoy what I do. It's not that, but it also makes me connected to some emotional level of, you know, the sadness and longing and, you know, going back, you know, reconnecting with going into the studio and the solitude and the loneliness and all that stuff. Yeah, I love it.
I don't know, man. When I'm heading to an airport and I go into an airport, most people would hate it.
Yeah,
but I know that now something is happening, you know.
Yeah.
Something is brewing.
Yeah.
I'm doing something.
No, I agree. So I enjoy it on the same, you know, level that I would do any other kind of social activity. Not any other social activity, but a great social activity and something I enjoy to do, you know. But I don't enjoy it on the same level as being creative in the studio, because there's so many other emotions attached to it.
Yeah.
You know, you're connecting to yourself not only on the positive part, whereas being on the road is mostly positive, you know. You're talking a lot of bullshit and you drink a lot and you play a few shows.
Hopefully you see something.
Yeah, have you seen a lot?
Honestly, yes, because that is something we kind of strive for.
Then I think you're doing a good job. Because, you know, the most you see is a backstage.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, and I'm not bashing the backstage, but the backstage is like...
It's not that interesting, really.
No, it's like anywhere else.
Yeah.
I like meeting the people that enjoy our music, though, because when we have finished doing the show, and I enjoy the show part as well, especially if there's a connection between the band and the audience.
Of course.
That makes it a lot more special. So there's a lot more, there's a lot of components here that has to click for it to be the best experience. And then going out and talking to people, that's also great, because the conversations you can have can, not always, but sometimes bring you on why you're doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know, and connecting with somebody then that you don't know, but connects to your art in the same way that you do creating it, that's quite special.
You know, as I'm pointing out all the time, I'm a bit younger than you guys. But Mork has had some sort of, call it, progress the last few years.
Yeah.
You know, things are happening. And we have been able to travel, which we are really appreciative of.
Yeah.
But for example, when I played San Diego, there was a guy that came there who approached me after the show, and it turned out that he has followed my project since 2004, and that was the very first time I put something out on the internet.
Nice.
And stuff like that, you know.
94? That's quite early.
Not 94, 2004.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but it's still far way back. It's 16 years back, you know.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't know, that something you make in your living room can affect someone.
Yeah,
like that.
Like I said, I also enjoy that aspect of it. I think the travel is a hassle, but it is a necessity. I think creativity-wise, the stage is great, but the studio is even greater.
Yeah.
That's where you come up with it. The raw material you put on a stage, you do in the studio.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of the quintessential part of it, or the primordial soup, or what you will, you know. And the thing is, on a stage, there's no guarantee you will be able to recreate it, you know. So there's also uncertainty there, you know.
Yeah.
So you're kind of rewinding the tape and playing it forward, and it's a bit repetitious over the years, you know, in the sense that some experiences don't stick out. Every album sticks out. Every era of every album sticks out, but not every concert does. So that tells me that there is a difference there in kind of, you know, where you put it on the noble scale, you know, like doing, you know, and I haven't done nearly as much shows as some of the other people we know, you know, but doing a few hundred shows, I don't know, you know, over the years, I don't remember all of them individually, but I remember every song, you know, every riff, every, you know, mindset of it, what I felt, you know, and so I guess that's why I enjoy that part of it more. Yeah, so there's different attributes to it, and you also have to be a social kind of being when you are on the road, you know.
Yeah.
And that's one part of me, and one part of me is not, and I can't really always control when one part is up and one is down, you know. So if you're stuck on the road for 7 weeks, you know, you just have to cope with it, you know.
That's true.
And
That's
it's
true.
you know, you can't avoid the fact that when I create music, I'm not a businessman. When I'm on the road, I'm a bit of a businessman because I'm selling my product. So that also diminishes it a bit in relation to the purity of creation.
Wise words, my friends.
Thank you.
Very much so. Can you please, just to wrap it up, do you have anything you want to promote or push?
You know, hopefully somebody's interested to listening to this, and hopefully also somebody is looking forward to the releases coming from me and my camp, you know, the guys I'm doing music with, you know, I'm sure for the next few years. Dold, Vorde, Navn. The album is finished. Dødheimsgard, pre-prod is finished. I'm also doing something else. Hopefully it will surprise you a bit, you know, at least conceptually. And then Ved Buens Ende, we are also making a record. So a good couple of years for me coming up, you know. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Yusaf, for hanging in there.
Thank you, Thomas. It's been great hanging out, you know, having drinks and talking a bit.
Let's have a few more drinks and talk some more off the microphone, shall we?
Yeah, we should.
See you later!
Thank you.